see you all. It really, really is. And it's a wonderful place. I got carried away, you see, they were telling me all about it. It's magnificent, isn't it? You can't believe the history behind it. And who was it who's collected all that wonderful stuff over the years?
Ronald.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. And because I miss the cinema. I miss my Betty Grable and all the rest of it. Right, there we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Neil Brand, and I won the lottery tonight.
Oh, thank you, Neil. Isn't that sweet?
To do this
thank
interview.
You very much. Thank you, darling.
You are so well known and so loved, and you have been for quite a while.
I'm a lucky lady.
How do you deal with the fact you're so recognisable?
Well, walking around like this, I mean.
Yeah.
I've been in the business a very, very long time. Yeah. It's 62 years. I got my first job when I was 13 in Pantomime, on the end of the line. And I got to say the line, because I was so little, and I was on the end of the line, I got to say the line, like, oh, here comes the Baron. You see, so that was it, and I got hooked on. I was at a convent. I won a high scholarship, and I went to a convent. And but while I was at the convent, I used to do little tap dancing, little shows, at the local town hall. And there happened to be a talent scout round looking, and he'd just discovered Morecambe and Wise, and he said to my mother, he said, "Your little girl, she's got something. I think she should go on the stage. She should be in pantomime." And my mother was a Cockney snob, just, don't tell anyone you came from the East End, Bethnal Green. We're Stoke Newington now, which we've gone up with, And so she was wonderful. I understand now why she was like that, because it was hard times, the war, and the husband, my dad went to war, so hard times. So, and she wanted to better herself. It was a new breed of lady. We're not having 6 kids. 1 is enough. We might not see our husbands again. Anyway, she said to this man, "My babs, go on the stage. I'll have you know she's going to be a foreign language to learn." She won the highest, which I did. I won the highest marks in the whole of North London, and so there you go. And anyway, I ended up by going for the audition and getting it, and that's how it all started.
And you got the bug straight away.
Yeah, straight away, absolutely. I mean, I was a real show off. I mean, but then my entertainment was empires. My granddad used to take me to the Hackney Empire and the Finsbury Park Empire. Fortunately, the Hackney Empire is still there, but we're always having to do things to save it, to keep it up there, But so that was my life. My granddad used to sing in the clubs. He was a docker, but he used to sing in the clubs. So it was all, and he used to say, you should have seen Mari Lloyd, you should have seen Mari Lloyd. You're just like, because Mari was little. Yeah. And of course, I was fortunate to play her on stage in a musical called Sing-a-Roo Song. But as I say, so I really got hooked, and I was advised to send. I'd won this big scholarship at the convent. I was a very brainy little thing, and only because I went to Blackpool. We got bombed out in Bethnal Green, and it was getting too close, the bombs. So my mother sent me to Blackpool, and I had a wonderful education there. Whereas most of the schools were closed up here, I came back ahead of the class I was in, so that's how I got these huge marks. And but I suddenly, once I'd done that bit of pantomime and got on stage, that was it. And I started playing up at the convent, so they released me. And my mother sent me to. My dad was a bus conductor, my mum was a dressmaker, and they got a few quid to send me to a theatrical school called Ada Foster's for just one term. And as I walked in this school, I was short, fat and loud, and the first person I saw on the wall was Elizabeth Taylor and Jean Simmons. They'd been at the school. And she looked at me, the lady, and Ada Foster, and I had all my little certificates that I'd won and all my medals, And she looked at me, I sang for her, I sang Sunny Side of the Street, I always did that, Sunny Side of the Street, did a cartwheel at the end, always got them the end, cartwheel, So, and that was it, did a bit of tap dancing, did a bit of ballet, and she said, well, I don't know what you've got, she said, because I had this fringe like this, and all the, as I say, these lovely girls were there, and she said, but you've got something. She said, all those medals, all those what you got, mean nothing, she said, you might have to change your name. She said, but there is something about you. And I got the pantomime, and then from that I used to go to all these auditions and never get them. And then when I was 15, I got an audition for Love from Judy, which was a musical, and I was queued up with about I don't know, about 500 little girls like me, and they were all singing. I always remember it was the Palace Theatre, the wonderful Palace, big Palace at Cambridge Circus, and the queue started at the stage door and went all the way round all the way round. And as you got closer and closer, I could hear these girls, because they were singing songs like, I heard a robin singing, all in that kind of voice, see. And of course, I came out and sang, grab your coat and get your hat, and did be acrobat. And they liked it, you know. People either took to me or they didn't, you know. So, and I was fortunate to get into that show at the age of just coming up to 15. I had to play a 10-year-old. And I looked a 10-year-old. I didn't have these in those days. And of course, I went into this show at 15 and came out when I was 17 and a half. I never grew that way very much, so I could still play a 10-year-old. And you know who was in that show with me? The wonderful June Whitfield. And Judy, and she doesn't mind me saying this, she's 10 years older than me, and I used to look up to her. Think I want to be like her one day. A wonderful lady. We worked together only last week. We did a radio show together, her new series, Okay. And we were trying to think what we did on Coronation Day, because we were in the show. And all June could remember, she said there was masses of people, and we were terrified that we were going to be late for the show and we'd get fined, because there were so many rules in those days. I mean, I'm appalled the way some of them, they call their bosses by their real name now. You know, I mean, I wouldn't dream. Let's say, for instance, at Eastenders, they go that we had a boss called Deirdre, and I'd say, "Good afternoon, sir. You know, how are you?" But they go, "Oh, hello, Deirdre. Hello, how's it all going?" You know, that's how they talk. Well, in those days, years ago, we were taught to be early and to be, you know, be very respectful to the stars of the show, and don't get into the lift until you're allowed to get into the lift. But I like that. I like that, you know. I mean, June Brown, Dot Cotton, always says I should give a masterclass on how to behave in the theatre, because I've kept that. People don't think I'm like that. They think I'm just, but I'm not really. I was taught at this particular time, when I was in Love from Judy, I learnt so much in that show. It was wonderful. That if I chose to come into this business, which was part of the public, then when I stepped outside the door, that was it. I was Barbara Windsor, because my real name's Barbara Deeks.
Sure.
And Barbara Ann Deeks, but because I was told to change it. And that was the year of the coronation. But also, remember, I had a family name, Ellis, my mum's name, and a Windsor name, also my aunt, who looked after me while my mother went to work. And I wanted to go for Ellis because of my mum, but it was the year that, remember Ruth Ellis, who got hung? Well, it was the year.
Yeah, good move not going for that one.
No, and of course it was the year of the Windsor, and that's how I chose the coronation.
Very wise.
Yeah, you see. Anyway, sorry, I've rambled on. If you want to ask
that's
me a question.
perfect. You've just gone through my first 4 questions.
Oh, sorry, sorry. I know. My old man said to me, he said, "Don't ramble on. Just give them a chance. Give them a chance at all."
No.
But I think that's a lot to do with nerves. You want to, you know, and you want people. I want people to get to see me and look at me and say, "Oh, isn't she little?" and "Oh, she's funny little thing." Yeah, you know. Well, I suppose that's how I've earned my living, really, you know. But as I say, so that was that. So I was in Love from Judy for 2.5 years. And about 18 months into the show, we had this terrible wardrobe mistress. So, I mean, though everybody was very strict, she would sort of have fag hanging out of her mouth, you know. And she, Barbara Windsor, Barbara Deeks, or Barbara Windsor, whatever I wasn't there. And she said, she bought this great lump of elastic, and she went, "You're not looking like a 10-year-old anymore," she said. "You look like Moulin Rouge." And she said, "I stick around there," and she pushed this all around me. So for the last year of the show, I had this elastic around my boobs, you know what I mean? So I always had a thing about my bust, you know. I used to walk along the street like that, you see. And of course, when I came out the show, I'd never had what I call an ordinary life. So when the builder yelled out, "Hey, seen your feet lately, darling?" I did, "Oh my God, what's going on?" You see. So there we go.
So you obviously you were very versed in the business that early on.
Yes,
but the business very soon took you towards clubs rather than theatres.
Yes.
Now, how did that come about?
Well, the thing was, what happened when I left the show, my mother said, "Well, you're going to have to get a job," and of course, although I was an intelligent girl, I didn't have any of the certificates and all the, you know, the things that you have to get a decent job. I suppose it's the same now. I suppose it is. And so I went and worked in a shoe shop, which I loved, because that was like being on stage, because you produced your goods and you had to sell them to the man. And I knew that we used to have the ladders then. Does anybody remember the ladders were in the shop and the men always had the money? And I always remember it was the colour of the time was sherry tan and sage green. And I learnt the whole stock like a script. But I also learnt that if I went up the stairs, if I went up the stairs like that,
I got the best view of that one, ladies and gentlemen.
The men paid, you see, so I did quite well.
Yeah.
But and it was the first time I went to a dance hall like that. I like a little lady going out and getting a boyfriend and all things like that. But it was always in my. Can you all hear me, everyone? You couldn't tell me. It was always I had this thing. I used to audition on Thursday afternoon on my day off, and I auditioned for Ronnie Scott, because so I went on the road with him.
You were singing as well.
Well, I am a singer.
Yeah,
but it was so funny because I'm not anymore, but I was. But it's funny with Ron. I went for this audition down this terrible little nightclub, right in the basement. It was in Soho, and there was 5 girls, and the others were all tall, and very. And I was still short, fat and loud, and except for I had these. And he went, we all got up and sang something. The girls got up and did all that stuff, and did all that jazz stuff. And I got up and sang Sunny Side of the Street. and he went along the line and he went, "You, little one, be at the Mapleton Hotel, Monday, 9 o'clock, we're going on tour. And learn a love and marriage." So I learned love and marriage. Of course, I didn't have a dress. He said, "Come with a long dress." And I had a bridesmaid's dress. My mother's a dressmaker, so she sat up, like you used to hear on Come Dancing, she sat up all night sewing all these little diamantes and marigolds around like that, and pulling it up because she didn't want to be, let's see. And I went on the road with him, which was great. But the first thing he did on the first night, as I remember, it was in Southampton, I got and sat next to the other singer and the guys in the band and said hello to everybody. And he suddenly walked on, and he had his saxophone, and he walked and he looked around and he nodded, and he came straight over and pulled all the diamante and the stuff off me. He said, "You're hiding the box office, Barbara," which kind of makes me think he didn't choose me for my voice, you know what I mean? So there we go. So that was good times. But I always kept auditioning, but I was a certain type. People either loved me or she's going to be very good for her little parts and things like that.
And it was a tough way to go into the business, too, because the club world was
but
tough,
I went into that. That was great for me. Absolutely fantastic. That really worked for me. My opening night, I thought, nightclubs? What's going on at this 12 o'clock at night? I was really surprised, but it was great. It was perfect for me. I absolutely adored it. And the first show I ever did, all the nightclubs years ago, and I'm sure some of you will remember, they were all different. One had a solo singer, was there. One had a comic. One had magicians. And this show called Winston's was a little review. And there was Fenella Fielding, remember hello, that's Fenella, that's Fenella. And Amanda Barry, do you remember she was in Coronation? She was in the show. These are all singer-dancers. Barbara Ferris, who was in Sparrows Can't Sing with me. Do you remember Jill Gascoigne? Yes, well, Jill was in the show, all not what you know of them for. It was great. It was. You used to come out and sing, "What's on in London? What's doing tonight?" But I loved it because every night there was different kind of people. One night you'd have all the people from the car people would come down, down to Olympia. Another night would be all the publicans and all the rest of it, the news people. Other nights it would be all famous, you'd see Victor Mature and oh look, there's Dinah Dawes, and look, it was a bit like that. I remember the first time Shirley Bassey came in. It was wonderful. And I said, she keeps stroking that mink coat. I think it was her first mink stole. She said afterwards, "I'd never had a mink stole," And it was a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere. Alma Cogan all came in, And I learnt an awful lot. And I stayed on and off at that show for about 4 or 5 years because people would come and go, and I would go off and audition and not get the job, or get the job and it flopped, go on tour for a bit. Now, go back to the club. And then one day, and every time I used to go off, the governor, Bruce Bates, used to say, Absy, our little lovely lady, she's going off. Let's give her a big applause. We want her to be a star, because she's going to be a star. So I used to have a cake. And this one time I said to him, please, Bruce, enough already with the cake and that. Please, let me just go. And I went, and I never came back. Oh. So I went quietly, and you know what the show was? Things Ain't What They Used to Be. Wonderful show, wonderful,
now, you were the connection through there, from going by your book. Barbara's book, All of Me, is fabulous, I have to tell you. It is incredibly detailed as well, and there's a lot, it's a wonderful life. And the connection through to Things Ain't What They Used to Be is Bernie Winters. Now that's interesting. Now how did that come about?
Did you pick that up? Well, when I used to do cabaret, I used to do all the others. I used to be filming during the day, and I was making a film called, only little parts, not big parts, although this was quite a big part I had, with Jay Mansfield. Do you remember Jay Mansfield? I was doing a film with her. I had quite a nice little part in it, and it's about a young girl comes to London and gets into trouble, and that was me. Anyway, but it was at a studio which was the big MGM in Elstree, which is no longer there. It's a factory, wouldn't you believe, But it was the most wonderful area, because you saw Gregory Peck walking down the street, Robert Mitchum. It was fantastic. And where we were making this film, they were making another film, and it was with Anthony Newley and Bernie Winters, a few names. And I used to meet them at lunchtime, because Anthony comes from Hackney, and so did I, so we used to rabbit, And unbeknown to me, they were looking for somebody to go into Things Ain't What They Used to Be, to play this Irish prostitute. They cast it all except for this one part. And Bernie was with Lionel Bart, who wrote it, and he said, I can't find anyone for this girl. So Bernie said, well, there's a funny little girl, he says, she's making this movie with Jay Mansfield, and she comes and tells these horrendous stories about Jay Mansfield. I used to go and tell her all the gossip. I used to go, never guess what? So, well, you know why? She used to peg her things. So, and all the angles had to go that way with the cameras. And we never got a look in. So I used to go, no, I was terrible. I was very naughty in those days. Anyway, he said, you want to get her in? She's fantastic. And Lionel said, well, I know her. She's a singer. And that was it. So I got invited to audition for Things Ain't What They Used to Be. And that's the very notorious story of me and Joan Littlewood, how I met Joan Littlewood.
Joan Littlewood was very influential on you, and I know you had a tough old relationship with her as well. Yeah, and should not have been. I was everything that Joan wouldn't like, because of my upbringing in the theatre. I would, if I arrived somewhere, I'd know my script, it would be marked up, I knew everything, always dressed nice, no jeans, well, they didn't have jeans in those days, but always looked nice. Joan was totally different. Yeah. And when they asked me to go and audition, it was on a Saturday morning, and I was at Winston still, and I remember taking a nice skirt with me to wear, and a nice top. And I arrived, it was on a Saturday morning, at the Wyndham's Theatre, and I arrived at the Wyndham's, and I only knew Joan, that she'd done, what was that? What a Lovely War?
No, she'd never done. No, that was much, much later. What's the one I'm looking for?
Taste of Honey? Taste of Honey.
Taste of Honey. That was the one. So her name was big, But and I'd seen a couple of things kind of about her, but she wasn't the kind of person I would like to work for, because I was used to working with people like the Emil Littlers, those big producers who brought in these great big shows into the West End, you see. So, and I used to boast a lot about my West End career. I know I was a pain in the jacksie, I really was, pain in the arse. Anyway, so I arrived at this oh dear, pissed again. I mean, there's always one, can't hold their drink, can they? Do you know who that was? That was Joan.
Yeah.
Saying, you cow, you're going to tell that bleeding story about me. Anyway, I arrived at the stage door at the Wyndham's Theatre, and there was a lady kind of sitting on a stool with her legs like that, with a fag, and there was a bucket and a mop, and she was doing like around that. And I came, she went, oh, hello. I said, hello. She said, what you come for? What are you doing here? So I said, oh, I've come for this audition. I said, I worked till 3 o'clock last night. I said, but I don't really want it to come to it, but you have to because your agent says this is, and I just rambled on. And I said, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm just cleaning this stuff. I said, oh, my nan's a cleaner. She works at Pim's, the drink factory. I said, and then just talked like that. And then suddenly I went in. Oh, and she said, what you said? She said, what are you doing? You're early. So I said, yes, well, I'm always early, And I started on about my West End shows, anyway, can't I tell? Like I've done USS, the way I was brought up, you see, and anyway, I walked onto the stage, and it's like, when you're in the theatre, you can't see anybody, it's all dark, and you hear a voice, and it was Lionel Bart's voice, and hello, and I knew him. He said, well, hello, it's Li here. I said, oh, hello. So he said, this is for things what they used to be to play an Irish prostitute. I said, oh, I can't do Irish, because I didn't want to go to Stratford East. My mother had worked very hard to get us out of the East End, and so that was it. And I was a terrible little snob at that point. And I was honest, and of course, there was another man there called Jerry Raffles. I didn't know who he was, and then I could hear this woman's voice, and she said, "Well, where I said, oh, I can't do an Irish. So she said, well, where'd you come from? So I went into this whole thing again about how I was actually from the East End, but my mother worked very hard, and I now live in Stoke Newington, where they vote Liberal. I mean, I don't know, that was it, now God, So it was all these silly, so she said, okay, so she said, well, what you asked, I'm doing nightclubs. So she said, do you ever see any of the prostitutes? Because they were still just about going off the street then. Sure. So I said, oh, yes, I do. And so she said, all right, do a kind of a Cockney prostitute. So I thought, what a ridiculous audition, because normally they just say, hand you your music, what have you been doing? It was nothing like that. So I walked up and down. Oh, don't, I'm going to show you. I walked up and down. Hello, short time, mister. Right, please forgive me. There's a 5 bob a wank. 6 bob a plate. Which is what it was called in those days. So anyway, no, I'm really sorry, but that was it. And I heard a little bit of laughter, and I didn't want the job, and I just walked up and down doing this, you see, and all these terrible things, and laughed, and I could hear Lionel, who was really on my side, I knew that. And this voice, and she said, can you sing? I said, oh, yes, well, actually, I am a singer, and I reeled off my PA, my stuff again, oh, God, don't. So she said, all right, can we have a song? So I picked up my music, and my dots, they call them, and I went to the pianist, but there was no pianist, and I said, oh, it's the piano. Where's the pianist? She said, if you're such a great singer, you don't need a pianist. So I got up and I sang. I thought, this is mad, this is. Sang Sunny Side of the Street, finished with a cartwheel. Well, I thought, I'm never going to get this one, never going to get this audition. And I had an attitude, and I'm very ashamed of myself. I had an attitude. I don't want to do this. But really because of my mum had instilled with me, West End, get out the East End, get out the East End. Don't ever say you come, from the East End. And next thing, this woman came on, this woman who sat with a hat and the thing, and I looked at her and I said, hello. So she said, my name's Joan Littlewood. You're Barbara Windsor. Where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
And that was it. And I just couldn't believe it. So anyway, I started rehearsals. I hated it. I hated it so much, I ran away almost, because I arrived on the first day with everything marked up at Theatre Workshop. Miriam Carlin, remember the great Miriam? She was the only other one who hadn't worked with her before, and everybody else, she called her nuts, and they all came schlocking in, you know what I mean? And there was me and Miriam sitting there, And the first thing she did, there was Lionel, and there was Frank, who'd written the book, and she said, oh, you're all my new nuts, aren't you? She said, got a few old nuts over there, haven't I? I said, nah. Have you all read it? Yes. I'd marked everything as I walked there and come back here. And she said, yeah, excuse me again, but when you talk about Joan, she swore all the time. She said, what a load of fucking rubbish. And I went, what? So she said, Nah, we don't want to do this, do we? Chucked it in the air. Oh my, that's how I work. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I didn't like the way she worked at all, and I didn't like the swearing all the time, because I never swore, I didn't like all that, and things like, we don't play with that part, do this part, go and learn what she's doing, learn her lines. I don't want to, I want to my lines, and that was it. And I fell out with her, and she told me to F off back to the West End where I was used to working. And I went to see my agent, and he laughed, and he said, "No, look, she's crazy, this lady, but believe me, try and stick with it." So I did, and I thought, I'll go around and look at Soho, because this is all based in Soho. So I'm going to look, and I looked, and I was seeing that all the girls who were going off the street were putting up different labels, like massaging done here, blonde or brunette, whatever, and French lessons, and even cleaning, they would go, come and clean your house and all that. I thought, they've gone on. So I came back with these ideas, and as I walked through the door, she was there. She went, got over your tantrum, have you? Seen a bit, yeah, had enough of your West End, have you? All like that. I said, yeah, and that was it. And then 3 days before we opened, I kind of got into it a little bit. 3 days before we opened, she said, little bird, she was called me Little Bird's Egg, come here. She said, me and Lionel have decided that you should do a song. Well, a song? How? What kind of a song? Is it going to be comedy? Is it going to be this, that? I asked her, she went, hold on. She said, we're going to give you, he's written you a little song, he's going to play it for you in a minute. And he did. And I said, there's going to be any choreography? She said, look, all I want you to do is sing the song. Sing your song, sit on a stool, sing the song. Oh, and I said to her, where's it coming? Because it's in the second act, it's better. I said, where's it coming? So she said, about 15 minutes in the second act, I felt myself go, that's great. Let's hope I can do big cartwheels and all things like that. That was going on in my brain. And anyway, so she said, anyway, I just want you to learn it and do it. And I'm going to have to swear again. I do apologise to the ladies and the gentlemen.
Strong language throughout.
But she said, but that's Joan. She said, it's Joan. It's Joan. That's the way she was. And she walked off the stage, and she turned back to me. She said, before we go any further, when you sit on the stool, for fuck's sake, sit on those fucking hands. Because have you gathered, I do this. And so on the first night, I sat like that. Where do little birds go to in the winter time? And I stopped the show, and we went to the West End, and we ran for nearly 3 years.
And
yeah. She changed my life. She changed my life, absolutely.
That number made you a star, didn't it?
Yes.
For the first time.
It did. It got great reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of critics didn't like the show because they liked the Oklahomas, like I did, and Carousels. We loved those musicals. And this was like 10 actors with a few old props, And so, but it worked. It was of the time. It was homosexuality was being accepted, the prostitutes were going off the streets. So it was of a time, and it was, what was the furniture of that time? I can't remember. Oh, what, Danny? Yes,
G-plan.
It was G-plan furniture. Not all uncut moquette, that was all going. And saying things ain't what they used to be. It was so perfect. So we ran for 2.5 years. It was a big success. But we got about 2 or 3 critics really slaughtered it, but the majority of the people. But we also had a hit song too, Things Ain't What They Used to Be, although we used to sing rude lyrics in the show. But Max Bygraves brought out a clean version, so there we go, So that changed my life.
Now, we haven't got a clip of you singing that, but what we have
okay.
got is a lovely clip from the beginning of Sparrows Can't Sing,
right.
which we'd like to play.
Well, can I just tell the story about that?
Yeah, please do.
About 2 years later, they wanted Joan to do a film, the producers who owned our show, and Sparrows was not a hit. They put on Sparrows, the play, and it wasn't a hit. She said, I want to do Sparrows. Wouldn't you know? She couldn't do Things, a hit, which was a big hit. No, she wanted to do Sparrows. So she said she wanted to do Sparrows, and she wanted me to play the leading lady with Jimmy Booth, and they didn't want me, the producers. They said, no, she's very good with her sweet little, funny little lady parts, but not for the leading lady of the part. She said, well, either you have her or I don't do it. So that was it. So they got me. And we did the film. It was very hard. We did it mostly on location, but we were fortunate. We had Ronnie and Reggie Craig who put their minders up, so we could film, and filmed in their clubs and things like that. And that's how I get associated with them more for that. You see, So anyway, so that was that. Now everything was nice. The film was made, and then Lionel said, "Can I see a print of it?" And so he hired a cinema, and it was me, Joan, and him, and we saw the film. And when we both, me and Joan, said, "Oh no, it's not right," you know. And Joan wanted to go in and cut it all to bits. And he said, Lionel, he said, "I think it's lovely, it's wonderful, and Bar, I'm going to write you a song again." So I said, "Are you?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll write a little song. And tell you what, why don't you sing it, if they will let you, sing it over the titles." So that's what leads to this.
Ain't it a shame sparrows can't sing? Think of the joy sparrows might bring, but all they can do is fly in the sky and fly and fly and fly. Ain't it a shame kisses can't fly? There'd be no more kisses, goodbye. But all I can do is lie here and sigh and cry and cry and cry. The charms he had were well and truly hidden. It ain't just what he did, it's what he didn't. He didn't say, "Dear, you're divine," nor did he say, "Darling, be mine." So why do I see in him everything? Well, sparrows, poor sparrows, pretty sparrows can't sing.
Great, isn't it? 2 years with a wrong ship. Charlie Goody.
Very emotional. It's made me very emotional.
Well, if you can stand it, we'd like to see a little bit of you acting from this film as well, because
because we lost Victor only a couple of days ago. I loved Victor Spinetti. I saw him last Thursday. Looked wonderful. He's in that film. We've lost Roy Kinnear. We've lost Youth the Joys. You know.
Is it too much to
No,
look at this now?
because it reminds me of Happy Time, Dear Lionel. Murray, I saw last week. Lovely Murray Melvin, because he runs theatre workshop, Stratford East, you know, he keeps it all, you know, so, but no, just great, happy, wonderful, magnificent.
It was an amazing generation of actors that you were with there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who all went on to be stars and character stars for the next 20 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all came out of theatre.
I mean, when people think of Jimmy Booth, did some great stuff from Roy Kinnear. Yeah, and a lot of those came out of Joan Littlewood's workshop. I didn't. I find out of all of them. No, Eutha did. Eutha Joyce, remember her? It's wonderful. We shared a dressing room for 2.5 years in Things Ain't What They Used to Be. Yeah, it was wonderful. Her, Tony Palmer and me. It was great, yeah.
Well, let's see this scene. This is Barbara having just found out that her husband's back from the ships. And she goes to see him in the pub. Can you remember whereabouts you were shooting this? You said you were on location. Were you in South London?
All down the East End.
It was all down the East End of London.
Bethnal Green, Stratford East, all round there. And Isle of Dogs. Yeah,
it's a superb film, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen it, it's also a slice of London that's just not there anymore.
Well, I tell you what, why we did it was because they were pulling down all those wonderful little houses that I'd been born in, you know, 2 up, 2 down, you know, over the garden wall, that kind of thing, and building those I'm sorry if people are living, but they were monstrosities. They were building right up, and there was, you know, and she just hated it because you would hear old people dying, lifts breaking down and old people dying off at the top, you know. They always put the old people up at the top. That's what they did at the beginning. And it was against all that. Nobody was getting together. There was no playing in the streets or any. It was a big culture change that was. And she hated it. You know, she tried to do everything to stop them building them. And then there was the big accident, wasn't there? I forget what it was called. Yeah, oh, yes. And it said it all, didn't it, that? But there we go, they still kept building them. I think they're starting to not now.
Oh, yeah, I think they are. There's a really good series on TV at the moment called Secret History of the Streets.
Isn't it wonderful?
Which is all about this. It's great. Yeah, let's see you arriving in the pub to see Jimmy Booth.
Oh, Jimmy.
Charlie, she's here.
Hello, Meg. Where you been?
Well, I just come down Jamaica Street, ain't I?
Want a drink?
Yeah, all right.
Same again, Pat. You look great. Where you been hiding yourself?
I'm up and around, Charlie.
Where you living?
You don't look so bad yourself.
I said, where you living?
Ta-ra, Mag. Charlie. All right, ta-ra, Bridge.
Where you living?
Oh, just down the street, you know, round the corner.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was thinking of looking down there.
Well, you've been looking for me.
No. Didn't write and tell me the house had been pulled down, did you?
Well, I had a bad hand.
Did you? Don't look bad now, though, does it? And when did you stop taking my allowance?
Well, I was doing all right with patisserie.
You what?
Me patisserie.
See you, Charlie. See you, mate. She's a good one.
How do you know?
One of us, ain't she? Come on, Percy.
You've never moved. You've never moved very far from the East End, have you? You've gone away and come back and gone away and come back.
Yeah, well, it suddenly dawned on me how much I love the East End. Mummy used to take me down to Petticoat Lane every other Sunday because she was a dressmaker and she wanted to get material, which she saw in John Lewis, nick a bit, and then go down there and say, this is what I want. And it was about the only thing about the East End she allowed me to like. But she was really, do not tell anybody you're from the East End. And I didn't. And, of course, I learnt to love it with Joan. You know, and now you can't keep me away. Yeah. It's fantastic down there now, isn't it? I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, it's the place to live, Shoreditch. Oh, it's fantastic. But, yeah.
We've got a couple of shots here. It's you and Lionel Bart.
Yes, that was Twang, the big flop. If you're going to have a flop, have a Twang. You know.
I just want to ask you about that because it kind of... And here you are with the Craze.
Yeah, that was that's George Sewell, the actor, Chuck Sewell. You see, that's why it was always with actors. Yeah. So if you get that, oh God, I don't care. They was okay to me. They helped us out. But what I'm saying is, I was always with actors when I was with them, you know, because they got to know Judy Garland and all the rest of it. And
you organised a last night party at the club. From one of the shows, and you had Anthony Armstrong-Jones coming along as well, and all that sort of thing.
Oh well, Anthony Armstrong-Jones, I'd worked for in a show.
Right.
That's why he did all the scenery. He ended up marrying Princess Margaret, didn't he? You know, but
so were you the person who brought the West End and the East End together like that, or was there more of that going on?
No, not at all. I tell you what, as I say, most of my life I lived in Stoke Newington. You see, Stamford Hill, and I wouldn't know anything about that. My life was show business, and that was it. And it was only when we did this, and Joan said, we need a club, and we need people to look after us while we're filming. And that's how it all came, and that's how I got friendly with them, you see, through show business. Victor Spinetti, because of what they looked after us, we ended up by doing all charity functions for them, see, so... They twist it, the old papers.
Oh, of course they do. Tell us a little bit about Twang. This is Lionel Bart's big show that he's going for, and it's after things like What They Used to Be. It should have been a huge success.
Oh, yes. I mean, what you've got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, Lionel was huge by now. He'd had Lock Up Your Daughter, Things and What They Used to Be, Blitz, but this big, huge hit, Oliver, which was so big, I cannot tell you. I mean, and it ran just by next door to us almost. And in fact, on the opening night, he spent in my dressing room with Eutha Joyce because he couldn't watch the show of Oliver because he thought it was going to be a flop because it hadn't done so well at the Wimbledon Theatre. And, of course, the rest is history, doesn't it? Yeah. So
with Twang.
So that went years and years. I went my way, everybody went their way, and, you know. And Joan had great success. I had great success. Lionel, everybody, Jimmy Booth had great success. He was signed up to all these films. So everybody was successful from that. Youth had got a series. It was good. It was good. And I was in America. I went to A Lovely War with Joan on Broadway. And we got this phone call that Lionel was writing a musical about Robin Hood called Twang, and it was going to be the Harvey Walkin, who'd written for the Marx Brothers, was doing the book. We were going to have Paddy Stone, the greatest choreographer, to do the dance, and the lovely Oliver Messel, who did all the royal family's clothes, but had done a lot of shows. So it was the best, the tops, you see, and they wanted several stars in it. So that there was me, Jimmy Booth, and Ronnie Corbett, Bernie Bresslaw. They were playing Robin Hood and the men, you know, and it was all based on Robin Hood. And I should have, and Bernard Delfont was the producer. Heaven.
Shouldn't have gone wrong, should it?
Don't put Joan in that lot, because Joan comes out, give her a few actors, just a few actors in jeans and little sweatshirts, and a few dirty props. Magic. But you give her 20 showgirls, all this wonderful scenery, the best producer, the best this, that, no good. And that's what happened. And unfortunately, it was a time when Lionel had lost the plot. Lionel had lost the plot, and he got heavily into drugs. You know, it's all been, you know, put in. So I'm not talking out of turn.
No.
I mean, and we knew from word go it couldn't work. You know, there was lovely Ronnie Corbett, and I used to sit there thinking, what a mess, because she actually said to one showgirl, because the showgirl said, well, I don't really know what I do. She said, oh, just run around the theatre, dear. She said, just go into one of the boxes, just snog with one of the patrons. Well, you can't tell a showgirl to do that, can you? I mean, it was ridiculous. That's the kind of thing she would like, you see. And God, we opened in Manchester, and it was a big opening. It was, you know, we all knew it was going to be, you know, we're not silly. I'd been in musicals and hit shows, and we all knew it couldn't work. Anyway, but Joan wouldn't listen. And it's the only time I've knocked Joan and said, no, Joan was to blame. You know, because Lionel, in spite of everything, had written a good score, and we had, everything was great, except for Joan wanted us all to play what we call silly buggers, you know, on stage. And we opened in Manchester, and it was a big opening night, and it was quite disastrous. I, at one point, had to come running on and saying, I don't know what's going on here. And, of course, someone yelled out and said, neither do we. I also, and I reacted back. I came out of character, which is very unprofessional. I said, well, give us a chance. It's our first night. Ronnie Corbett was furious with me. He never spoke to me. He said, how dare you come out of character on stage? I said, well, you try standing out there. I said, with all that lot screaming out. Oh, it was murderous. It was very like that. We've talked about it since, but that's how it was, you see. Anyway, the next day we all got called in. And also the other thing was we opened with a 20-piece orchestra, and the second half we only had a trio because they hadn't. Yeah, so it was weird. And when we came to the finale, Lionel insisted that we did snatches from the show, like they all sing, don't they? There's the hit songs. We didn't have a hit song, and I remember there was one where we are 2 years old and 92 years young. So it came out, and Jimmy Boo said, "I'm not getting out there." I said, "Oh my, we're not done." And little Ronnie, God bless him, no, we haven't. It's not our fault. And we went and sang it. And by the time we finished, the whole theatre was empty. By the time we finished it, poor old Bernie Bresslaw, she told him to, when we're looking for Maid Marian, go and look everywhere, go backstage, go out the front, which that seemed okay, go into the box. And he went into one of the boxes, and the people turned around and almost growled at him and say, "Get out of this box. We want to get out of this theatre." It was like that. And of course, the reviews, diabolical. And she walked. She walked, Joan. Very surprised. Very surprised. And they got in what they call a doctor. Doctors, an American doctor, Bert Chevrolet, who wrote Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And he looked at this show, and we were playing to like 8 and 10 people, and it was a 2,000-seater. Yeah. And he said, "It's got magic, but it's all wrong." So we started to work on it, and we used to come in every day, and sometimes we'd get to a piece, and it was Joan, like he'd say, "I'm going to start doing so much at a time, like 10 minutes at a time." So we'd do a bit of his and then go into Joan's. So it was a mess. It was a complete mess. But we suddenly saw the light, because we were 3 weeks there, and we got to the second half, and the first part of the second half was great, but the rest of it wasn't. So a few of us, Ronnie Corbett, me and Jimmy and Bernie Breslow, went to Bernard Delfont and said, "Can we please go on tour? If we go into the other, like the big ones in Birmingham, Nottingham, all those Manchester, or we're in Manchester, Liverpool, let's try and get..." And he said, fine. He said, fine. And went to Joan. He said, "Do you want..." I don't want to say. Went to Lionel. He went, no. It's going to open. I've got the theatre, the Shaftesbury Theatre. That's what we're going to do. And we had to open. And we had in those days, there was the first nighters. They were the old pros who'd sit there up in the gallery, and they would have thick tomatoes and stuff. Really? And they screeched at us. We got through the first half, fabulous. Got to the second half, and then they started screeching from the top, Or Danny, I'll never forget Danny standing up. "No, it's not their fault. It's not their fault." Yeah, Danny LaRue, sorry. "No, it's not their fault. Give them a chance." And all that was going on. Victor stood up. It was a catastrophe, absolutely. So there we go.
And like you say, if you're going to have a flop, have the biggest one ever.
Yeah. About 2 weeks later, the eyes blew up and everything, And what my agent at the time said, Peter, he said to me, "Well, got to get your hit show now, haven't we?" So I said, "Are you kidding? I never want to do another show again." He said, "Barbara, you're only as good as your last hit show, and you haven't had one. This is a flop." And I thought, no, I can't go out on stage again. I'll do anything. I'll go back and sing with a band or go to cabaret, whatever. And I'd only made one carry-on. I'd done Sparrows and one carry-on film there.
You'd done Carry On Spine by then.
Yeah. And I thought, well, maybe because I used to do one and then not do one for 4 years because I didn't particularly want to do them.
Let's have a look. Now we're hitting the carry-ons. Let's have a look at a little bit of the iconic.
Can I just turn around and say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
He made me, my agent, go back on stage. He said, "You have to. People will only remember twang, and you've got to." And he found a musical called "Come Spy With Me." And I went into that show with Danny LaRue. It was his first time he'd ever, which was Gary Miller, anyone remember? And Richard Waters, and ran for 2 years. Yeah. Big hit it was. So there we go.
And you and Danny were big friends for the whole of your lives.
Yeah, we were in cabaret together from when I was about... I first met him when I was about 17, 18. Yeah. But then he came and we worked in cabaret together for a long time. Then we played 2 years in town. Oh, yeah, he's there. Danny, Johnny Inman, Victor, God bless him. Too many of them going. Too many, of the good ones.
Let's have a little look at Barbara as we all discovered her.
Oh,
this isn't from Carry On Spine, this is from Carry On Doctor, but we also have another iconic figure here who I'm going to ask Barbara about in a minute.
What is it?
You! Then it was you in the sluice room. I was hoping it was hallucination.
Lucille?
Hallucination, you remember her, the girl. What am I talking about? What are you doing here? You must get out at once.
But I only just got here.
Yes, but you don't understand, it's not safe. Somebody might come in.
Oh, that's right, dear Kenneth. Oh, you always think of everything.
No, what are you doing? You can't stay here.
But Kenneth, darling, I came to repay my debt.
You don't owe me anything.
Have you forgotten? You saved my life.
All I did was treat you for tonsillitis. It was nothing.
You can't kid me. Why, you came to visit me in my room every night for months afterwards.
That was merely professional courtesy. You were in no danger.
No? Then why did you keep giving me the kiss of life?
Well, even if I did, you don't owe me anything. Don't you understand? Nowadays, you get it for nothing. You don't have to pay for it.
Well, what about all those wonderful things you used to say to me? All about my cute little tibia and how I had beautifully enlarged glands.
Well,
Dr. Kilmore?
Man, more impressionable, and let's face it,
Dr. Kilmore?
made an impression.
Dr. Kilmore, why are you listening at Dr. Tinkle's door?
What was that?
Why are you listening at Dr. Tinkle's door?
Was I? Oh, yes. I thought I heard a Death Watch beetle.
Really? Then we'd better inform Dr. Tinkle.
No, you can't go in there.
Now, will you kindly open that door and leave my room?
No, not until you say you love me.
Very well.
Oh,
Stand aside from the door, please.
No.
Very well.
Dr. Tinkle! I'd never have believed it. Matron, let me explain. This girl's mad. She forced her way into my room and tried to attack me. She's crazy.
oh, that's not true. I wouldn't hurt him. I love him.
You do?
Yes.
She must be crazy.
Return to your room. I'll deal with you in the morning.
I don't care what you do to me. Without him, I don't even want to go on living. Oh.
You see what I mean? She's absolutely crazy.
Bluebeard!
Doctor, you saw what happened. You'll back me up, won't you? What are you looking at me like that for?
I was just thinking, what a cute little tibia you have.
That was only my second one, wasn't it?
That was only your second one.
Yeah. I did Carry On Spying, which I loved because I was a huge fan of Kenny's. Well, all of them, Hattie, because they're great theatre people. That's what I loved them from, you see. I'd seen Kenny do wonderful reviews, play the Dauphin. Hattie had done lots of theatre, and Jodie Sims, all of them. And of course, and dear Jim, he was a skiffle
guitarist and
wasn't
singer,
he?
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was it. But I kind of did that one, which it was lovely to do, but I thought I don't want to do these again. You know.
Initially, you didn't get on very well with Kenneth Williams, did you?
Well,
It wasn't
you don't
your
like.
fault.
Well, the thing is, no, we ended up the best of friends. Yeah. But the thing is about Kenny, he doesn't like new people. I was warned when I arrived. You know, they said, be careful. I said, what is everybody like? They said, be careful of Kenny. He doesn't like new people, you see. So, and he kind of put his head round the door while I was in makeup, and he went, oh, hello, you new? Like that. I thought, oh, God. So, anyway, we got onto the set. Oh, God, I'm going to tell this story. She'll go mad. Because she's been here as well, hasn't she? Vanilla.
Vanilla Fielding.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, so there we go.
If we could just keep this story between all of us.
No. Graham Norton made me tell it on you don't know about. He made me tell it
he's
on
been
television.
on
you know.
national TV.
But what happened was, I said to the makeup, what's he like? He said, well, he doesn't like new people. But he's okay, but don't mention Vanilla Fielding. So I said, why? They've made films together. Yes, but they had a big row, and that was it. So that was it. I said, okay, fine. So there's a scene where we're sitting around with spies, aren't we, British spies? He was 003.5, Kenny, 007, 003.5. So anyway, we were sitting around the table, and there was Jimmy Dell, and Charlie, the wonderful Charlie Hawtrey, and he had a long black beard, Kenny. You see, and I had the first line in the scene. It was my first line in Carry On, and as I opened my mouth and tried to say, I went, you got the wrong teeth. I said, I'm sorry, I got the wrong teeth. He went, oh, Ducky, do get it right. I told you about these new people. I mean, it's little. And I was so upset because I adored this man. I revered him. So I got myself up to my 4'10.5". I said, don't you ever go at me with Vanilla Fielding's minge hair around your chops. Where it came from, I don't know. And he went, "Oh, isn't she lovely? Oh, I love you." Oh, like that. And that was the beginning of the most wonderful, wonderful friendship I've ever had.
Yeah.
And he ended up by coming on my honeymoon with me. That's what you're going to ask next, which he did. He was sitting there, and after the show, we'd been on about 4 or 5 weeks, and we were sitting there. We got very friendly, and he said, "What are you doing after this film?" And I said, "Well, actually, I'm going on my honeymoon because I got married the day before I started the film." "Oh, what did he say?" "Oh, is that one you've been with 2.5 years?" "Well, you've had your honeymoon, haven't you, really?" So it's not really a honeymoon you're going on. It's a holiday, isn't it? So I said, "Well, I suppose so." He said, "Well, because I've been talking to Kenneth Horn, you know, who he used to do Round the Horn with. I've been talking to Kenneth Horn, and he said there's a wonderful place in Madeira. You should go there. They have a lovely buffet on a Wednesday night." Anyway, so he said, "Maybe we'll go together." He said, "Why don't I meet your husband?" And anyway, he did, and fine, they got on well. So we decided we were going to go away to Madeira, Funchal, Madeira. So that was fine, and we arrive at the airport, but he didn't tell me he was bringing his mum and his sister. No, honestly, I know it sounds like a carry-on, but that's exactly what happened. And he didn't talk to his sister. And his mother was my Ken. Yeah. Don't you look at my Ken like that. My Ken, God bless him. It was like that little tiny lady, but as tough as anything. Well, we go to Madeira, Funchal, Madeira, and it was a disaster. Everything, well, for getting on the boat, because when we got to the airport, you then had to get on a boat to the island, you see. So, of course, it was one of those old boats, and it was choppy, and Kenny was being sick all everywhere, but also ordering they promised you a 3-course meal, and, of course, being sick and ordering a meal at the same time, you know. And I said, "Why?" And I said to him, "Why do you want a meal? You're feeling sick." "Don't you have a go at my Kenny. If he wants his 3-course, he's paid for it," you know. And it was all this guy. So, and we arrived at this hotel, and everything was, and it was terrible weather. He never came out of his room, and when he did, on about the 3rd day, he had a suit on, and it's sunny, and he's got a suit on, and he said, "I'm not staying here." He said, all these German women showing their tits. I don't want to look at their tits. You know, I mean, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace, madam. Oh God! And he went to, honestly, cross my heart. I do not lie. It was like that. And then we ended up by not talking, because a lovely sweet man came over and said, "Oh, I do love your work, Mr. Williams," he said, "especially Round the Horn, and I love the carry-ons." And he said, "May I have your autograph?" He said, "No, you can't." He said, "I'm here on my holiday." And I swung round and said, "Don't you say that. That person pays money to see us." Now, he went, "Oh, you're going to be like that." "Oh, I'm not." So he went off. And then I had his little mum said, "Don't you ever go, Mark Kenny. How dare you? You know, he's been in that." And we ended up by not talking for the last part, yeah. But that was it, you see, but he was wonderful. Oh, we made up, of course we did, before we got back. But he was wonderful, that's how he was. And I cannot believe that the fact that he died, and it was when I've read his diary, it's very sad, you know, and yet I was round the corner, because when I came to move into town, I saw him, and he went, "Oh, so you're living near me, are you? Oh, good." He said, "Can I have the supper, can I? You know I don't like smoked salmon." I said, "You know that, don't you?" He said, "Yeah." You know, and that's what you got there, you know. And I remember seeing, and then he never spoke to me for 2 years, because you remember they do an evening with on ITV. Well, he was the first one to do it, and of course, and I was invited. I couldn't go because I was working, you know, and he phoned. He said, "What is it I hear you're not coming?" So I said, "Well, I can't because I'm working." "You know, I would, darling." I said, "You know, I absolutely adore you," because he made me laugh. So funny. He went, "Right," plonked the receiver down. I would see him in the street, never talk to me. Like that, and go, "That's okay." Anyway, one day I get a letter from him saying, "Right," he said, "my milkman's coming to see you at the Palladium, and he's bringing his family. Would you please let him come round afterwards?" He said, and I said, "Yes, she will. She's like that. She's very friendly. She'll have anyone round there," she said. This is how he writes. Anyway, you know what I did? I really went to town. I had champagne. I would anyway. I had champagne, and he was standing at the door. I said, "Come up to the dressing room." There was Bobby Ball, and I introduced him to everybody, you know, Cannon and Ball, and lovely Emu, and all, you know, and all that. And I made a big fuss champagne with all the rest of it. And then he phoned me up. He said, "You are wonderful." He said, "You're the most wonderful, wonderful lady." And I didn't know, and I did a questions and answers recently up in Bradford, because I got a little award, which was nice. And he read extracts this gentleman, from his diaries, and I hadn't realised what he felt about me.
I get the impression from the diaries he loved you as much as he
Yeah,
loved
I even when we fell out, it was silly. He was just being, silly.
Yeah.
But we never actually, we did have we were terribly on that holiday, and I thought I'd never talk to him again. But he said, he said, you always wanted to sign autographs, and you asked, who is it to? You have to do all that.
But it seems like he... But it seems like he liked it when you took him on. That was what it seemed to be.
So,
he liked somebody who
but
came
I hate
back
the
at him.
fact that he died, and it sounded like he was so lonely, and did he commit suicide, or didn't he? It's an open verdict, isn't it?
With the films, with the carry-ons, was it a fun set?
Oh gosh, yeah, it was. You can't. I mean, how can I put it? They worked you. I mean, it's not hard work. In our business, it's not hard work. But A&E on a Saturday night, that's hard work. Being down a mine, that's hard work, and we get a lot of lovely listener back, But the hours were very long. You had to be there at 5 a.m, and it was go, 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 and they didn't want any more than 2 takes. I mean, on the first day of filming, we'd be ahead of schedule, and they were making the Bond films at the time, and Roger Moore would come down, and we in the lunchtime, we'd have our table. Well, there was me, Kenny, and Joni, and Hattie. We're the only ones in the carry-ons who used to go into the restaurant. All the others did whatever they wanted to do. God knows what Sid got up to, but anyway, So and
down the bookies, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. And Roger, well, one time Sean did, and he walked in and said, "You're ahead of schedule, are you?" Because on the first day we'd be ahead of schedule. It would be unbelievable. And they allowed 6 weeks, and we normally finished it in 5. Yeah. And 2 takes, 1 take, 2 takes, And this is what happened, where you do a scene, and you immediately... You see, what they got was theatre people who are... We're very strict with ourselves, that theatre. Of course, we're all about the same age, or I was most likely the youngest. But, so what you did was, in between, you checked your script, you checked your costume, and then you sat there until they wanted you. Well, what would happen, Sid straight away, when he knew everything, like, put his hands, get out the cards. Anyone want to play a bit of poker? So he'd go and play cards. Joni Sims would go with her stand-in, and they'd just be talking about, Kenny say, oh, look, she's so boring, talking about the price of meat in Tesco's, Yes, no, those guys, because she would talk, what did you do last night? This was Joni, was very like that, know. And I'd, oh, yeah, did you? And your husband, what else? Then you'd go to Bernie and Hattie, and they would be doing a very posh paper, like the Times, the crossword, you see. And then you'd go up, far away was Charlie Hawtrey, who didn't think he should be in these films, because he'd been a big star in the 40s, big star, and he thought they were a little bit beneath him. So he'd be sitting there with his weights, with the wood barns, puffing away with his name on, I mean, his chair was higher than anybody else's, sitting up there. What am I doing in these films? I've been a big film star. That's how he was like. And then there was Kenny. And I would always be next to Kenny, and he'd be telling all these jokes. And it was the same joke, but different people. So, oh, you've heard about the cannon and the balls, haven't you? Well, you heard about the vicar and the balls. It was always the same joke, but different, and it was wonderful. And people used to come on our set. It was only ours that, there used to go for competitions in magazines, and what film would you most likely to be on a set, and it was always ours, and lovely. They used to come in and say, Kenny, behave, because he'd think nothing of jobbing. Oh, I've got a terrible sore bum, look! Go up to someone, that was terrible.
Now, we're going to take a little break.
Oh, are we?
We can't. Is that all right?
No, I don't mind. I mean, they would like it. Do you sell drinks here and things like that? So you can all buy drinks, can you? Yes.
We're going to take a little break just for a quarter of an hour or so, and also to let Barbara...
Oh, no, I'm all right. I can go, but they need to go.
Yeah, they need to, yes. And there'll be a queue for the toilets
too. You're wonderful. You're so polite. You're such a polite audience. It's lovely.
But before we go...
Yeah, after the cocktails, yes.
Before we go, let's see Barbara and Sid James and Bernie Breslau trying to put up a tent.
All right, I'll show you once again. You watching? Oh, right, here we go now. Now you see it. Now you don't.
That's it.
That's wrong again. That's 3 kisses you owe me.
What is going on here?
These two gentlemen have been kindly helping us with our tent, sir.
That's very nice, I'm sure, but you mustn't let them take advantage of you.
Oh, no, we'll try not to, sir.
I'm talking to the gentlemen.
Oh, you don't want to worry about us, mate. We're only too happy to be of assistance.
Very kind of you, I'm sure. But I'd like to see you get everything organised inside the tent.
That suits us.
I was talking to the girls. Bunks and bedding.
Oh, yes, well, Jane's just gone to get hers, sir.
It's high time you got yours. And I was talking to the girls.
Come on, Fanny, we better get cracking.
Wait a minute, darling. You don't want to take that. Too heavy for you. You might do yourself an injury.
That's all right, I can manage.
Can you? Go and get some more for the others.
Hey, what are you doing in here?
Just come to give you a couple of hands, that's all.
If Dr. Soper sees you here, we'll get into awful trouble.
We just got to make sure he doesn't see us, haven't we? Well, it must go together somehow.
Well, hurry up, for heaven's sake, before someone comes.
Perhaps you have to pull something.
How about those two things sticking out in front?
Yes, how about them?
Oh, saucy. Come on, how much longer are you gonna be?
Sorry, but it's not going to work like this. We'll have to try it the other way round.
Oh, come on. Stop messing around, you two. Give us a bed. Let me and Bab show you out.
What do you want me to do?
Grab hold of this. No, both hands.
Oh, it's all right. It's only your aunties.
I have to tell you that dark-haired girl next to me was Alma Cogan's sister. But yeah, just a little something, to tell you.
We'll be back in court for now, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Barbara Windsor.
I'm going to show a clip now from a film which Barbara, I know, had a great time.
Oh, God, yes, lovely, isn't it? I've only got a cough and a spit there, but it was lovely. Me and Bernie Breslaw, we were doing a carry-on at the time, and we got this method, and they'd been making Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for a year. And Dick Van Dyke had broken his ankle, so they kind of stopped filming, and he was back again. And just to meet Dick Van Dyke was fantastic, he was a huge star with that wonderful television series. Anyway, we suddenly got a message, both Bernard and I, to go across and see these producers on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We thought it was Kenny Williams having a joke, but when we found out it wasn't, so we went and they said, what do they want us for? I don't know, what could it be? So anyway, cut a long story short, we went in, there was all these big knob kind of producers, and they went, wow, thank you for coming over, we're really thrilled, and we've seen your work, we love it, and we would love it if you could possibly do a little cameo role on the film. So we both looked at each other, he's 6'4", years old, looked up at him, looked down at me, and we went, well, yes, kind of what you got in mind type thing. And they said, oh, just a nice little cameo role, we'd love it, okay, fine. And they said, we'll talk to your agents, about money, etc. And we both came out and said, we don't want no money, we don't want money, we'll do it for nothing, just to work with Dick Van Dyke, that was it. And came the day, it was very exciting. Poor Bernard was taken ill. And they got Arthur Mallard, remember? And Arthur Mallard, hello, Bill. Yes, hello, Arthur. Anyway, we got there, and everybody, I got all excited, but everybody was like, ugh, they'd had it, because they'd been working on it for a year and hanging around waiting for Dick to get his ankle better. Anyway, it was the scene of, the sticks, the old mug, the fair scene. And it was only a lovely little cameo role, that's all it was, but it was absolute, to meet him, he was charming, it was absolutely gorgeous, I loved it. It was only... I was meant to be there a day, and I think we did about 3 days there. They said, oh, join in the fun and all the rest of it. I loved it. I love it.
Hiya! Here you go, Dad! Who's for automatic haircuts? Only preference at time. You may have long hair, you may have short hair, sir. You may have straight hair. It makes no difference to the Potts automatic and hygienic electronic haircutting machine.
Come on, you could do with a
Come here. Be straight, please. Excuse me, sir. You look like a man who could do with a haircut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go on. Go on, Cyril. Go on.
Sit down. My word, you have a lot of hair. Would you like an estimate, sir?
Go on, get on with it.
Can't you just sit tight, sir, while I lower this hair-cutting machine? There we are. You just relax. We'll have you finished in a minute.
You're right, no one is sitting here.
Now you look lovely, Cyril. It's going to be smashing.
You keep your eyes on that geezer.
Yeah, all right then.
Yeah. What's going on?
Oh, Cyril, it's all right.
Nothing to worry about, sir. A little friction to start.
Yeah. It tickles.
Oh, you always say that, Cyril. You're smoking!
I'm on fire! I'm on fire! Stop it!
Oh!
You don't fire!
Excuse me?
You don't fire!
It's all right, sir.
All day! What you done? Give me a mirror. Let's have a look.
A mirror? I guess I'll go home and get you one.
Here! Look at me here! Where is he? I'll kill him! There he is,
Dear Arthur. I mean, he came in on the day. That was good, wasn't it?
It seems that there was quite a lot of things came your way because there were other films shooting at the same time as films you were working on.
Yeah.
Because
it was it was Pinewood Studio. It was a huge studio.
And there was a time when you were making a carry-on film and a certain director called Ken Russell was making The Devils on the next set. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I don't know what film we were making. I think it was Carry On Henry we were making.
Right.
And I knew the makeup guy on The Devils, wasn't it? The Devils, yeah. And he, of course, we used to hear all these stories about what Ken got up to. Oh, it was terrible. I mean, or what they were doing. I can't... You're a very nice audience, I can see that, and I can't go into detail now. It's bad enough I said the F word, you know, but the thing is, you know what Ken Russ was like in some of the films he made, and there was Vanessa Redgrave lying naked and being, you know what, everyone, you know, there was monks having J. Arthurs under their Cossacks and things like that. Because I got, you know, and I'm looking, I'm going, oh my God, you know, Kenny was with me. It was Kenny, me, and the makeup man. And we were looking, oh God. Anyway, that was it. I said, oh God, fancy working for that. I'm glad we're on the carry-ons. Oh, they don't ask us to do anything like that. You know, a left boob, that's about it. That's how we kind of, I thought, came back, and 2 days later, there's a phone call, and they say, you're wanted on the phone. Just outside our studio, and so I went out there, and there was a woman saying, "Oh, this is Ken Russell's office, and Ken would like to meet you." And So I thought it was Kenny, that he'd got someone up to it. So So anyway, I was supposed to meet Ken Russell the next day at 6 o'clock after the show, well, after the filming, and I didn't turn up. And about 2 days later, he came into the restaurant and found me and said, "What's happened to you? Why didn't you come to..." And I realised that it was for real. It wasn't a joke, you know. So he said, "I think you'd be great to play Hortense. I'm doing the boyfriend," which he'd had enough of all those kind of devils, all those kind of films. He wanted to do something which was quintessentially British, which is can't get more than the boyfriend. He said, "I'm going to do the boyfriend." And he said, "And I think you'd be very good as Hortense, the French maid." Immediately, I said, "Oh, okay." Immediately, he said, "Will you come? But I'd like you to sing a song and like audition." So out I got Sunny Side of the Street again, didn't I? And I kind of tried to dress like I thought she would look. I knew it was all like 3/4 skirts, and I went to Joan. I said, "Look, Joni Sims, wonderful with accents. Not if you say to her, give us Irish, she said, where do you work? North, south, whatever." That's what she was like. So I said, "I've got to do a French accent. I've got to do it." So she said, "Well, what do you want? Which part of France?" I said, "What do you mean? I just want a French accent. That's all I want, you know." So anyway, so she kind of went, "Oh yes, it's nicer, much nicer than this." Da 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 da. I was like, "Okay, I think I've got that." So I went and gave him this audition, and I ended up with a cartwheel. And he looked at me and he said, well done, Miss Windsor." He said, "You've got the job as long as you keep the cartwheel in." So that was it. And on the first, and of course he had this notorious reputation. And there was lovely Murray Melvin in it. There was Twiggy. Twiggy was her very first film. Some lovely people in
Brian
it. Like,
Murphy.
Yeah, Brian Murphy. Oh, Brian, yeah, all part of the Joan Littlewood days, you know. And Murray. Murray Melvin, he was in it. All Joan, it was funny, now I think about it, all Joan Littlewood people. And it came to my, I'll never forget, I came to my first day's filming, and I walked onto the set, and what he'd done, we'd all had to go out with him at some time and just sit and have tea with him and talk. I didn't realise he was finding out all about you, because you go, oh yeah, well I did this and all that, and me, I'm once I start, I get a bit mouthy, as you gather. So anyway, so we got to this this first scene, and as I walked on the set, he said, ladies and gentlemen, he said, I'd like you to meet Miss One Take Windsor. So I said, straight away, I jumped in and said, well, yes, I usually am. I said, as long as the director knows what he's doing. Like that. So I became all carry on. Evidently, what had happened, because when we went out, and he asked me about the films, and I said, we usually only don't do one take. Yeah. Well, he's notorious for 35 and 50 takes, you see. So that was that said, and then he kind of got his own back. I thought, I shouldn't have been cheeky, but he got his own back, because there's a number in it where they say it's nicer, much nicer in this, it's a big number, and I did cartwheels and everything. And I did it 32 times. And on the 33rd time, I had these beads, beads, and it was on a rake stage, which is like, we did it in the Theatre Royal Portsmouth, and there's a rake, that's a rake like that, so it was quite difficult, and they'd put in these 3 cartwheels, because that's what it was like, and on the 33rd one, my leg went out, and I had beads, and I went through the beads, and the beads went everywhere, but I carried on to the end, because 2 days before, a girl had stopped. She dropped her handkerchief or something, and she stopped. He said, did I tell you to stop? She said, no, but I dropped it. He said, if this had been theatre, you'd have had to carry it, whatever. So I knew that you had, so I carried on right to the end. And the beads were all over the place. He said, right, take. We'll print that. So I came up, I was running after, and I said, but all the beads were all on the floor. I said, didn't it show? He said, that's just exactly what I wanted. So I said, but if you'd have wanted it, I'd have done it on the first take. And he said, but I didn't know I wanted it on the first take. It wasn't until you did it. That's what he was like. But he's a person you think, I'll never work for this man again, because we did a scene like in the silent movies, and also in the 30s, 40s, they used to have girls hanging on chandeliers. Do you remember? They used to tie them up. Evidently, they used to leave them there all in the lunch hour, and he tried to do that to us. He did that once. He got about a quarter of an hour. We were all up there on chandeliers going round like showgirls. And then he came round with glasses of champagne and with a straw, like to say, I don't mean it, But he kept us hanging up there for about a quarter of an hour while everyone went to lunch.
I bet he did.
But he was wonderful. He was the kind of person, I never want to work for that man again. But then when you see the screen, you say, oh yes.
There's a lot of people, I think, who said, I never want to work for Ken Russell again, except Murray. And Murray,
yes, Georgina Hale.
Yeah.
I saw them all. I'm always bumping into these people all the time now. Yeah.
I think we should see that number, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, right.
Let's see
my God.
a little bit from the boyfriend.
I would like to travel and visit other lands across the sea. But though it might be pleasant, I think that for the present, this is the place where I prefer to be. Let others go to Sweden or Siam. I think I stay exactly where I am. They say it's lovely weather, young ladies in Vienna, but it's nicer, much nicer in Nice. In Amsterdam or Brussels, the men have great big muscles, but they're nicer, much nicer in Nice. I've heard that the Italians are very fond of dalliance, and they're all so keen on eating place. But whatever they may say, this is where I want to stay, for it's so much nicer in Nice.
She says it's nicer, much nicer in Nice. She says it's nicer, much nicer in Nice.
Some people's one desire is to go to Buenos Aires, but it's nicer, much nicer in Nice. The loser are the Vikings, the town of Copenhagen, but they're nicer, much nicer in Nice. And some may like a flutter in Bombay or Calcutta, but they might have trouble with the police. Ooh la la! Other places may be fun, but when all is said head and turn. It is so much nicer.
But it's nicer, much nicer in this. But it's nicer, much nicer in this.
Ooh la la! But they might have trouble with the police. Oh mon Dieu! So I know a love affair is delicious anywhere. It's so much nicer in this.
Funny. I haven't seen that in years and years and years.
It's wonderful, and that's the real McCoy with the tapping.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm a tap dancer. Yeah. I'm not a great dancer. I mean, but tap I do very well. Yeah, and toe tap. And also, there's a scene in that which is I was the only one who could do it because of my age. I'm not sure. I can skip and tap.
Oh,
yeah. Not now, but I could then. Yeah.
I know that also one of the other things you've loved doing in the business over the years is pantomime.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And what is it particularly about pantomime that's
it's just the time when people are all come out to really. I know people go to the theatre would enjoy themselves, but Christmas, absolutely you do, don't you? And it's great to see the kids, and it's great to see when they first see. It's their first time in the theatre usually, and it's one you hear the. Oh, look, and it's great, it really is. I got my first pantomime when I was 13, wasn't it, 13, 14, and I did my last one. I came out of Eastenders, and I thought, I've got to get back on that green gauge, I've got to get back on the stage. And every year I get asked to do pantomime. Even when I was in Eastenders, they say, think they'll let you off? And I said, no, they do. They do now, they've started to kind of be a bit easy on it. But so I came out and I said, I want to do a pantomime. And how old was I? I don't know. I was trying to think. About 72, was I? 72. So, but I wanted to do it all because it's the show off in you, in an actor. See, I thought people only think of me as Eastenders now. Oh, go on, get out of my pub and all that. That's all they think, or carry on, because that's what they do. And I'm very proud of those. But I thought, well, I sing and I dance, and I wanted them to see that.
And what you've done over your life is reinvent yourself.
Yeah, I know. So what I did, I got Dick Whittington. I'm always asked to be in pantomime. I've just turned down another pantomime, but that was the last time I thought, I want to just do it one more time. Yeah. So and it was to go to Nottingham, which I'd never played. Bristol, what am I talking about from Nottingham? Bristol, and I'd never played Bristol. It has a wonderful Art Deco theatre, the old-fashioned theatre, and I wanted Dick Whittington. I want the original script, and I just bring it up to dates on some things. And I flew, and I did everything. Tap danced. I even did a Peggy behind the bar thing. I even did the camping thing with the dame doing my part, what I did in camping. So it was great. It was fantastic. And on Christmas Eve, I came out and. It was my 60th year in the business, and it was great, and it was a wonderful feeling. I love pantomime, I really do. I go every year. Oh, thank you. I do. I love it. I absolutely. My favourite part was Aladdin, and I loved playing Aladdin. That was my favourite, and Dick Whittington was my second favourite. I didn't like really playing Fairy Godmother. I thought I was wrong, but it's a great time. It's great. It's great. This year, I said to my husband, look, I've done it. I've celebrated the 60 years. Don't let me get tempted, and they come through. I got off quite a few places this year. No, I can't. I owe it to my body. I'm 75 soon. And I just know it to my body, yeah. So, I want to do it, but I just got a few little bit aches and pains in the feet on the last pantomime.
And it is hard work. You've got two or even
because
3
I
shows
show
a day
off
sometimes.
as well. Because of that what I'm saying about saying, oh, well, they only think of me as Carry On. They think of me right, I'll show them I can dance. And my old man said to me, lovely Scott, I got the most wonderful husband, Scott, and he said, Barbara, one day, he said, why are you doing all that pirouetting in that towards the end of first half? I said, well, I'm standing on stage waiting for this lovely curtain and all the lovely scenery to come in. I thought, there's not much going on here, so why don't... and I think, yeah, well, they don't know I can do those pirouettes. Yeah. They don't know I can do jetés, so I'm going to do that. You see, he said, but why? But why? I said, because I want to. And it's the show off in the actor. You know, I want to, that's it, you think?
It was the thing that was spotted really early on, isn't it?
Yeah, so daft.
Now we can't go through EastEnders without talking a bit about EastEnders. I want to show a little clip from EastEnders first. This is you taking on Pauline Fowler.
Oh, Wendy, God bless her, may she rest in peace.
And let's see the clip first, and then just tell us a little bit about how you got into doing EastEnders.
Okay. Yeah, the rest of it comes pre-packed. It's like an all-in-one Christmas dinner.
In a tray? Sounds horrible. Right, and it's the future.
£2.
And a busy day? Good, because it's your last.
Wait, I just paid for them.
Get a read, Mum. This store is closed.
Haven't you humiliated yourself enough?
I told you, shut this stall down, and you haven't.
Mulled wine, anyone? What's going on here?
Hey, look, just please stay out of it.
No, I'm sorry, Marty. I've held my tongue long enough.
Oh, keep out of this, you nosy old cow.
At least I'm not a liar and a cheat. I collected money for you, good money from honest pockets. But you were lying, weren't you? You know what it's like to be sick, really sick. How terrifying it is. I sat in your kitchen and I poured my heart out to you about the worst thing that ever happened to me. And you just let me. What sort of person does something like that?
And what sort of a person banned someone with HIV from their pub?
I made a mistake. I was ignorant. And Mark forgave me.
Yes, well, I didn't.
Nah, you don't forgive anything, do you? But at least I stand by my kids, no matter what.
And look what you produced. 2 thugs and a slapper. You even drove your husband to drink.
Yeah? And what did you drive your husband to, eh? If Arthur could see you now, he'd be turning in his grave. Come on, Martin. Let's go inside. If she wants to pack your stall up, just let her.
That was one of her last scenes. That was the about the penultimate scene. She died just after that. Yeah.
There were a lot of your friends in EastEnders, Pam and Clement, people that you've known
Pam is
from the past.
from Joan Millwood days.
And how did you come to end up with the part in EastEnders?
Oh gosh, for the kind of, how long had it been running? I don't know, 10 years. I thought, I wish I could do that. But the feedback I got, how true it was, I'm sure this is the truth, was, no, she's too famous for the carry-ons. Because I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I love them, at one point in my career, they had an effect on me because they suddenly bought them for television, cut them up and made them into... And then you go into people's homes and you are that character, you see. It's different seeing them up on the screen, you know. But you
didn't even get a cut of any of them, did you?
Nothing. You don't get anything. Do you know what? I've got plates with my name on it, Babs. I've got sweaters, I've got underwear, I've got everything, you know, you could possibly get with Babs on. They use the image of Babs. But there we go. It's okay. It's one of those things, you know. I'm still doing okay, you know. But I mean, I don't know what Sid would have done because it happened after he died. He would not have liked that money, them making money, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I desperately wanted, but it was this carry-on image I had. Even though I was touring the countryside and doing Guys and Dolls and all the different things, all the musicals and plays. Joe Orton plays and things like that, you know. It didn't make any difference. They had a thing about me for television. And I was told, they said, no, you think you're too famous. So that was it. So, and I was going around the countryside. It was when my career hit a low. And I was playing not the top number one places, I was playing seconds and thirds, doing an act and going around. And I won't mention where, I was somewhere, and I met my husband, Scott. We'd been together for quite some time. And it was in between shows, and he said he came back with some fish and chips. And he said, I saw this lady who was really famous, and he was lying on the floor. It was quite a cold little dressing room with an old fur coat over me. And he said, I thought, this is wrong. This shouldn't be her, you know. And I in myself had lost that to get out on stage because things were changing. There was no stage doorman anymore. There was lots of little things that was part of my theatre life. And I thought, well, I don't really like this. So I was going to give up the business and become an agent because I'm very knowledgeable. People phone me up and say, who do you think should do this and that? He knows that, don't you, Michael? Who should be doing this and all the rest of it? Anyway, so I started composing a letter about, to become an agent. And then suddenly I got the call. I tell you what, I was down at Brick Lane Music Hall. I was doing my kind of little act, and the casting director of Eastenders was in. She didn't know I was on. She just came for a meal there. And she said, I suddenly saw this woman. This is how she puts it. She said, I suddenly saw this woman I'd known forever. And she was singing, and she was pouring and talking about her life. And I thought, God, she's so vulnerable, this woman. She's not how we all imagine Barbara Windsor is. And because I'm very good at vulnerability, so she kind of said to he said, why has nobody ever used? And they said, oh well, because of this. Anyway, she said, why didn't you get her in? So they got me in. Well, they didn't think I'd play the part because they think I like to walk around like this all the time. And I said, well, what part is it? And they said, it's to play the mother of the two boys. I thought, oh, gee, that is the part. That is the one part I'd kill for, you know. And they genuinely thought that image, even our own producers, was seeing that image and think, well, that's all she plays, because they don't really see the theatre that you're doing all around the countryside. Anyway, they offered it to me, but then they made me kind of audition. They gave me 2 scenes to learn. One was a funny one and one was a dramatic one. Well, I was more terrified of the funny one, actually, funny enough. And I remember I sat with my husband all over the weekend. I said, I can't do this, because I knew people would be waiting for me to almost fall on my backside, because it could be quite cruel in our business, you know. And I never, he held me going over the lines and over the lines, Anyway, I went in and I did them with the 2 scenes. I was no good on the funny scenes, isn't it funny? And the other one, and they said, oh, we love your vulnerability. And that's what I said at the time. I said, I'm very good on that. And that was it. They said, well, we'll give you a little 4-month contract and see how you go. And they used me very lightly, if you recall. I didn't live in the square. I lived out, and it was just bits and pieces. And then I got called up. My contract was coming to an end, and I got called up by a new producer, a new governor. I thought, I got called up. I bet it's to say, well, it's been very nice, Barbara, blah, blah, blah. And as I walked in, she said, well, whoever chose you for this show, they deserve a medal, because you are perfect. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take up your option on your contract, and we are going to put you behind the bar at the Queen Vic. And that was just... That's what I wanted always, but I never thought I could. And of course, the first day I went in, I got in 2 hours early. I got in about 6:30 in the morning. I went behind the bar and I practiced, because I'm very little. And in those days, you used to get the glasses from up there. So I practiced. And I found that I couldn't reach, so I found a little ledge type thing and plonked it down so that I could stand on there and do that. And then I timed my lines with, if someone said, I'll have a pint of Guinness, a pint of Guinness, get that takes, how long does that take? That, and then you've got this, but I took it so seriously. I still do, but that's the way. I'm not like my image, you know. And it took me, I would say, about 14 months before I actually walked off the set and went, oh, I've just done a scene. I shook and shaked all the time. I was so nervous, and I knew there were people in the show who didn't really want me to be there, you know. So, and they made their comment in papers. So it's not something that I'm making up, you know. And I was very upset when I read that. But it all turned round. The boys were great. They were great. Steve and Ross, fantastic. They were fabulous, and a majority of everybody was absolutely wonderful, and I loved it. And it was awfully hard decision for me to make, to leave. I was in it for 16 years, and I just, what happened was, they gave us Saturdays out of nowhere, and we thought these were the odd Saturdays, but they turned out to be every. And I said, anyway, they told us that was what was going to happen. And then one day, my husband, because everyone always says, "Oh, you're all the same. You've never changed, Barbara. You're exactly the same." And I say, "Well, what? Well, when I get in the front door, I through the front door, I'm Barbara. I'm Mrs. Mitchell. Funny enough, I'm Mrs. Mitchell. That's my married name, isn't it?" And so that I said, "You know what?" So I've always been able to kind of turn off. But he said one day, Scott, to me, you know, now you're doing Saturdays. He said, and then Sundays you've got your script, and it's taken you over completely. And I realised it had, and my only conversation was about Eastenders. So that's when I decided to go, you know. And
since then, we have with us tonight Scott, your husband.
Yes, yes.
And
yeah, he's lovely. Like it, so thank God, yeah. Oh, I was no fool, was I? No, he's great. He's
you
wonderful.
Heard the news that you had been awarded an MBE.
Yes, I know. My mum, oh, God. Yeah, I know. It's lovely. You know, it is for a little East End girl, you know. That's when you're proud you're East End. That's why I wish Mummy had been alive. I said, you see, Mum, little Cockney, denying it, you can't, you see. And it was lovely. It was a wonderful, and it was a marvellous day, because not only that, it was the Queen Mother's was celebrating a big birthday. So I went to the Buckingham Palace once, and then when I went to somewhere else afterwards. But what was the great thing, when I arrived at Buckingham Palace, there was one of the old kind of, what do you call them, guards. He was an old, getting on a bit, you know. And he went, "Oh, look who it is!" And all the staff were hanging out the window. They went, "Here, look! It's Barbara Windsor." Oh, he said, "Do you know what? This is the best day I've had since Charlie Chaplin came through those gates." And I thought, oh God, that is magnificent. So it was a wonderful, wonderful day. And we got home, and Scott and I, we sat there. I just couldn't believe it. And we said, we better have something to eat. And we sat there, and we had. And I took my lovely dress off, and I was sitting there having poached eggs on toast with this hat on, and this wonderful MBE, you know. And it was just lovely. It was great. I was very proud. Well, you know, it's great. I'm a big royalist. You know.
And two last little things. One is that you then had a fan turn up in the form of Tim Burton, who asked you to be involved with Alice in Wonderland. Yeah,
I was at the studio. My agent phoned me and he said, "We've had a call from the Tim Burton office. He would like to see you." I said, "Tim Burton? The Tim Burton?" I mean, that doesn't happen. Yeah, I'm quite happy doing my Eastenders, you know, the odd thing up as well. And anyway, they said he'd like to see you. So I left. They sent a car for me at the studio. It was 2:00. I always remember. It was pouring down with rain, and his studio, where he does a lot of his stuff, is in Hampstead. And I arrived, and when I arrived, there was Tim Burton with an umbrella as I got out. And as I got out of the plane, he went, "Oh, Barbara Windsor, I absolutely adore you." He said, "Before we go any further, can I hear that laugh?" I'm standing in the bleeding pouring of rain. I went, "Pardon?" He said, "Laugh. Can I hear that laugh?" So I found myself. He said, "Oh, I love it, and I love the Mitchell family, and I love Steve McFadden." And I said, "Do you?" He said, "I love Phil Mitchell." I said, "Well, as it so happens, hoping he'll employ him." So he's a great actor, which he is. He's fantastic. He's not just Phil. He's fabulous. I said, "He's a great actor," you know. And that was it. And I went in, and he said, "I'd like you to say these lines." And it was for the rabbit, wasn't it?
For the dormouse?
The dormouse. Oh, yeah. I just think old age is creeping in at the moment now, you know. And it's time for my cocoa. So the dormouse. And I read these things. And he was standing outside the booth where I was doing it. And he was going... And then he'd poke his head in and said, "Would you mind saying that again?" "Well, no, fine." I did it again. Then he said, "Would you mind if I gave you some more lines?" So they kept, and that's how it was. So when I finished, I said, he introduced me to all these big movie people, you know. I said, "Oh, well, lovely to have met you." He said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Would you mind if I had you back here again? Because I think I'll..." Now, I think I'm auditioning, but that was the job. And it was wonderful. He was so wonderful. He loves EastEnders. I don't know if he'd like it now, but but we'll see. But no, I'm only joking. But he loves EastEnders. He loves Steve McFadden, and he was wonderful. And then we had a big royal premiere, and I went to it, and I took Steve with me. And I introduced him. He went, "Oh my God, Stephen!" That's how he treats you. Oh my God, It was lovely. It was lovely. And isn't that nice to know I had something like that? You
heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Steve McFadden will be in the next Tim Burton film.
Yeah.
And then most recently, you've been working with the Jubilee, and you've worked a little bit with the Mayor of London.
Yeah, I work for nothing politically. It's just. I'm street parties. I'm the London ambassador for street parties. Because, darlings, whatever, we've got all different people living here. People are living much older. But once upon a time, you'd have one house and there'd be one family. There'd be 10 of us, wouldn't we? Only one lounge, but we all mucked in and all the rest of it. But it isn't like that now. You can have one house and you can have about 10 families living, and they can be from all over the place. So there's a lot of sadness at the moment going on, and also a lot of people are living older because there's so many, you get better and all the rest of it, and with the medication and everything. So it's been wonderful. I go to all these street parties, and look what we did. Look what it was like this year. This year, fantastic. What with the wedding last year, it's been fantastic. We had 1,000 the first year we did it, street parties. So that I like doing that because I get to meet lovely people. People that keep me sane. And because I'm quite ordinary. I know it sounds daft, but I am. And it's lovely. I like doing that. And I've been doing quite a bit for the Jubilee, and tell the story about where I changed my name to Windsor. And it's been really nice. And I was there at the beginning of the Olympics, but I didn't get any invitations to go to the Olympics. And so I thought, oh, sorry, I'm going away. Because, what they've gone and done. I can't get out of my house. All the streets around, can't go down there, can't go down here, can't go down there. And so I thought, I'll book to go away. And then, of course, now they want me to be at the Olympics, don't they? But I'll watch it on television like everybody. Well, I went to the original, you see, when I was a little girl. My dad took me to the Olympics. I was 11
in
then.
London.
Yeah.
And my last question, although we'll have some questions from the floor. You've done so much. Is there anything left that you still really want to do that you haven't done?
Well, it would have been nice to have done an American movie because I was offered 3. But in days gone by, when you went into theatre, if you were hoping it would be a hit because then you'd be in a long run, you had to do the whole run. There's none of that going in for 3 months or 2 months like it is now. And there was Mr. Goldfarb, Please Go Home with Shirley MacLaine I got offered. And I couldn't do it. And there was one my agent would never tell me. He said if I did, you'd be upset. You couldn't do it. And I was always in the theatre, in shows. I was in these I was fortunate enough to be in long-running shows and flops, but so there we go. So I suppose I would have liked to, and I was talking to Matt Lucas recently, and David Wellings, and they said that they do it terribly different from us. They kind of work through the night, things like that, and like the French don't start filming until midday, do they? But I would like to just see how they do it. And but anyway, I didn't, so that's the only thing.
Oh, the chance is still there.
Yeah, you never know, do you? Yeah.
Are there any? We're going to have a few questions because also Barbara's agreed to do a little bit of signing on the side there if you have things you'd like her to sign. And also, once we've had some questions, if you want to take some photos while Barbara's on the stage, you're very welcome to.
Hello there, Barbara.
Hello.
Just come up from Stratford, actually. Stratford. Stratford East, yeah.
God, isn't it fantastic what's happening to it? Are you happy about that?
Yeah.
Are you happy about the Olympics
great,
there?
Yeah,
good.
Got tickets to the basketball.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, wonderful.
I was just wondering, your last Carry On was Carry On Dick. And,
yes.
They carried on after that for quite a few years.
No.
And then we had Carry On Columbus, and you weren't in that either.
No.
And there's even talk of there being a new Carry On now, isn't
they can't do a Carry. They can't do it anymore. We've come too far. To see a boob now doesn't mean anything. I mean, you get the whole lot now, don't you? So it was just oh, did I catch that boob? It was a bit like that. But no. What happened when I did Dick? I enjoyed that one very much. Sid died, and that kind of did it for me. And also, I got a script for Carry On Emmanuel, and it made front pages, and I hated it. They'd written it with a part for me, and it was they'd gone that. What was the other films that they did like that?
Columbus. The Hind, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was just too much. It was just too much. Kenny said at the time, "I'm only doing it for the money, Barbara," and I couldn't do that. I thought, no, it was perfect. And I always remember Breslaw saying to me, "Yeah, we'll finish now, shall we, Barbara?" And Joni did it, and she wasn't happy. It didn't work. Those last 4 they did have never worked. They're not good at all. We did Carry On Camping called Carrying On Behind or something. They didn't work, And you need those kind of actors who are outrageous, and theatre actors. That's who you needed, and they weren't getting that. No, the last few I wouldn't do it.
To get it now anyway, wouldn't they?
And when they asked me to do Carry On Columbus, wouldn't do that. No, that was disaster. And who's the lovely man who used to do the film on BBC TV?
Barry Norman.
Barry Norman. He said, one day when it came out, Columbus, he said, "I never thought I'd say this." He said, "But I've just seen a Carry On film. What are you doing?" Kind of thing like this, And weren't you sensible, Miss Windsor, not to do it? So, and that's sad. I did them. I was lucky. I did one, then I didn't do one for 3 years. Then I do another one. And then that was just right,
Thank you. Any more questions? We have a lady at the end.
What kind of advice would you give to a person like Simon Cowell who's pushing his children astray?
Oh, really? Do you think so? Well,
I reckon so, because
I kind of don't see it like that. It's just kind of how I did it. I went to dancing school, and people would come round and see you. It's that same, but it's now made it bigger, isn't it? It's on the it's on the big stage. But if that's what they want to do, then that's fine. I like Simon, and I like the show, and I'm a punter. I watch it, and I pick the ones I want. But I understand if you had somebody that that's gone again, and it's been not good for them, or they've been too young to try. Have you had an experience of something?
What it is, because I know your good friends at LBC 97.3 have been trying their best to.
Oh, LBC.
Yeah, your good friend like Stevie Allen.
Yeah, I'm having lunch.
They've always they had this gentleman in the afternoon to talk about X Factor and what really goes on, and how these children they don't know whether they're coming on left or right, but everyone they don't know how, people like yourself that work hard to get where you are, but it's just they want the money, they want the fame.
Well, I think
so silly.
Yeah, I do think that at the moment that our business is in a great state. You know what I mean? And people come into it for the wrong reason. They come in it to be famous. Well, I'm of the old school. I didn't come in to be famous.
No.
I like to sing, I like to dance, and that's why I came, and that was it, you see. But that is the thing, it's fame. It's fame and having money and making money easy. I mean, you've got to think of Big Brother, They put that word star after them, which is a bit silly,
I think that's what your career has proved, that long-term fame is about change. You change, you become something else.
Yes.
And to have that kind of talent, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, but if you go out to anyone in the street, they would only say two things now, Eastenders and Carry On, which I'm very proud of. They're two of the greatest British institutions ever.
Sure.
And I'm part of that. Isn't that absolutely magnificent?
Sure.
But it is difficult, I know, but we were so looked after, you see, when you were young, and you had chaperones to look after you, you see. Couldn't do this, couldn't do that. I understand what you're getting at, darling.
Another question, please.
Do you think your interview with Who Do You Think You Are has influenced you now in regards to what you would decide to do?
Oh, yes. Oh, that was lovely. And, I did the first lot when we didn't know what it was all about. We thought, oh, my God, but it was the BBC, and we're going to... And it was lovely. Very sad, sad and happy. But the funny thing is, my mother and father had this a ridiculous relationship. They were like that all the time. As I said, my mother was a Cockney snob, wanted to better herself, and my dad didn't. He still wanted to live in the East End, you see. And my father's side were really Cockney, thought that, whereas my mother's side, they were Cockney, but more upper class kind of Cockney. Oh, how can I put it? It's a bit difficult, you see. And the funny thing is about that, she was always saying, no, we've got to get out of the East End, get to Stoke Newington. Daddy was always saying, no, let's stay down Bethnal Green and wherever. But I'll cut a very long story short, at the end of the day, when we got to Who Do You Think You Are, it turned out that my father had the better of the two families, and my family is on my father's side, which would have killed my mother to think that it was better on, more posher, was the famous, oh, Scott, where are you? The famous Constable, thank you, darling, thank you, was the famous painter. Constable is on my father's side, so she'd have hated that. Whereas my mother's side were all toe rags and that. Yeah, that's what I think's so funny, you know. But it was great to learn about that. Very sad. I mean, crikey. And the amazing thing is, of course I'm Irish. You know, because at that time, the potato famine, all the people from Ireland came over to the East End. So I got a bit of old Irish, which pleased Danny LaRue very much, you know, so...
Another question?
I'd like to ask you a question. Can I ask you a question, Barbara?
Yes, of course.
Your last shot on EastEnders when you walked through the market,
yes.
Did you have much say in how your exit would be?
No, you don't have any say, do you, Michael? No. Well, you see, I asked to leave, and I knew they, bless them, they weren't happy about it, you know, but that was a compliment, so that's very nice. And I understood that, because I was an important, integral part of the show. And I thought, and I did say it once, I wonder if they're going to kill me. And I think I said it several times. I wonder if they're going to kill me. I don't really want to be. Do I want to be killed off? You know. And the thing was, when they started measuring me for a different outfit, which was fireproof, I thought, that's it. She's going to go up in flames. And when they said, we're going to burn down the Vic, and we have to go to another studio to do that, on the great George Lucas studio in Elstree, that's it. And I had visions of me going up in flames, going, my Vic! I got great visions of that. Well, I didn't. They did, you know, they didn't. And but I still kind of went, what did I say? Let it go, let it go. Yeah, but they didn't, you know. So no, you don't have any say. No, Pam didn't.
What about? Were you able ever on EastEnders to offer the producer a storyline for Peggy?
Yeah,
say, well, I think she could do this, this, and this. Would they listen to you?
You can just make little hints, you know. But it was my idea to do the my agent's idea as well to do the breast cancer, you know, the breast cancer storyline, because it was suddenly about 14, well, I was in it 16 years, so 14 years before, you kept reading about breast cancer. Could you remember? We didn't read about it, and then all of a sudden, breast cancer. And they'd wanted, funny enough, to do June Brown, Dot Cotton, with a cancer storyline, and she said at that particular point, she didn't want to do it. So that's when my agent said something about it, and they said, that's good. And I thought it'd be good because people with this image of me, you know, with the carry-on type, you know, I thought would be good. And so we did that storyline. And that was it's strange, can't say it was wonderful to do. It wasn't, but it was, I was glad I did it. And the lessons that you get in, and you know, for every 10 lessons which say, that's just what happened to me, you'd get the one who'd say, well, no, that's not how it happened. That wasn't what it was like. And I got loads of letters from husbands, you know, men, you know, about their wives. So
well, it was a tough scene to shoot too, because you had to dig pretty deep for that.
Yeah, I won an award for that, which was
so
great. Yeah, but I know, but I mean, it's just I was glad I did it. Yeah.
There's one more question. If there is one out there, let's. Oh yes.
What one thing would you choose yourself to be proud of? If you could choose one thing in your career that you'd be proud to put up and say, that's what I've done in my life.
Well, you obviously think of your loved ones, don't you? And I think, you know, I'm in such a good place at the moment that meeting my husband is I'm so proud. I was sensible enough to realise he was the one for me, because I met him at late in my life. So that is great. That is fantastic. But if I had to choose, would be Things Ain't What They Used to Be, coming and listening to Joan Littlewood and coming out and doing what she told me, to sit on my hands and just sing, and that, because that changed my life, so that was great. So I've got to have, I'd have to say a bit of showbiz, yeah, because that's me, showbiz. But also I'm so happy in my life at the moment. I've been married 3 times. I never thought I would be. I never wanted to get married, ever wanted to get married. I didn't want to have children because I was in show business from 13. People used to think there's something wrong with me. No, there wasn't. You know, the business was my life. But I'm really happy now. I'm the happiest I've ever been. My old man's just great. He's fantastic. He's tough. The other 2 weren't. Let me do what I like. Stupid. Right? But no, he doesn't.
What about a one-line obituary? If you were to have one line obituary in a paper.
Where's that come from?
She was a good bird.
That's good.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.